Blue, Krillin, Yamcha, and Goku all fly towards King's castle, ready for the fight of their lives, but prepared to do anything required to beat these demons. Krillin, being the arguable weakest fighter there, is a little nervous, but Goku simply tells him to calm down since Blue thought everything out. Okay, if you say so, Goku, but just as a refresher, can we go over the plan again? Goku and I will cause a large enough distraction to summon King Piccolo and his entourage. Then you two will attack from behind, and once all his children are taken care of, I'll use my paralysis to keep King Piccolo in one place, allowing Yamcha to use the Mafuba. Goku was a little upset that Blue didn't believe he could defeat the monarch by himself, and made sure to mention this was only a plan B. Blue sighs and says he promised Goku could 1v1 the king, to which Yamcha and Krillin says he's crazy. Well, in that case, the Z-Fighters would act as backup just in case. Once arriving in the capital, Blue and the others land and lay low, sneaking around the area and using telekinesis to knock out the guards standing atop nearby buildings. When entering the castle grounds, the amount of guards becomes staggering, but Blue prepared for that, putting on one of the guards' outfits and saluting the two stationed by the front gate. Wow, one heck of a day out there, huh? This new king really made our jobs easy. We can just sit back and watch the anarchy out there. Blue attempted to fist bump the guard closest to him, but the man seemed disgusted, and Blue knew what he was feeling. Well, so much for the civil approach. The general grabbed both guards' heads and slammed them together, knocking them out in an instant before propping them up against the door. Well, that certainly was easy. Blue prepared to make a large entrance, only for him to hear the sound of wings flapping, recognizing it as either tambourine or cymbal. He instinctively stood at attention and began reprimanding the two guards, acting as if they had fallen asleep on the job, putting on a show for the mutant Namekians. Though when looking up, he noticed Tambourine and Violo both looking a little solemn.
You know it's the right decision. We'll just be disposable pawns for as long as we live. We've both experienced it by now. We are his children. We should act like it, and take what's rightfully ours.
Violo shook his fist at Tambourine, trying to hype his brother up.
I'm not sure. That power, that experience. We were made the way we are to never surpass the Demon King.
Tambourine crossed his arms, looking down towards Blue, who began chewing out the two guards once more.
I'm happy to see some of these humans have cruelty in their hearts. Perhaps we should take a little piece of this world for ourselves, filled with nothing but evil humans to entertain us.
Tambourine seemed to smile for a second, though it was covered in shadow as he tilted his head forward.
But that's just a silly dream, brother. I'll summon you if I need help, but for now, I wish to be alone.
Violo said farewell to Tambourine before flying off towards the castle proper. Once Tambourine walked off to make his rounds, Blue pondered what their conversation could have meant, though ultimately just chalked it up to them talking about taking over the world. Well, now they knew Tambourine and Violo were here, and that meant they'd likely have Cymbal and Piano, but those two weren't much to worry about. Blue put his hand against the castle gate, signaling to the others who were hiding nearby that it was go time, before causing the gate to splinter and explode into the courtyard. Several guards stood and began asking what Blue was doing, only to receive a blow that knocked each and every one of them out. All this commotion and power summoned Tambourine, who slowly floated into the courtyard with an evil grin. He declared that he'd finish the fight they had back at the tournament and restore his honor. But that's when Yamcha jumps out and declares that he'll take this guy, as Blue should save his strength. The general thanks his friend before he and the others begin running across the courtyard towards the inner keep. Several soldiers open fire, but there's nothing they can do. Yet, when Cymbal and Violo stand in their way, the dragon creating a wall of fire in a vain attempt at stopping them, Blue and Krillin decide to stay back, blocking the two Namekians from pursuing Goku, who breaks into the keep and rushes towards the throne room.
You'll regret letting your friend go. Even if you make it past us, Goku will perish all alone, without a soul to help him in his time of need.
Viola swiped his hand over the ground, causing the entire area to explode, though Blue used his psychic powers to put up a shield around him and Krillin. I'd be hard-pressed to believe such an obvious lie. There's a huge difference between trying to discourage your enemy and just lying to yourself. We all can sense power, and Goku's is equal, if not stronger, than that demon. Blue stuck his hand up into the air, telekinetically grabbing Symbol and slamming him into the castle wall. Viola simply scoffed before removing his cloak and powering up, preparing to fight, knowing exactly what would happen. Blue had to admit that this bravery was admirable, but he kept his guard up, knowing that these demons were tricky. Viola begins charging up a powerful explosive demon wave, while Blue begins to focus his power, dropping the barrier as his body glows with purple energy. The evil Namekian charged forward, intending to slam his attack into Blue's chest, though the general put his hands up, using his mind to stop his opponent. While Viola figured this was just standard telekinesis, he was soon surprised to feel an immense amount of pressure surrounding his body. Blue had a hateful look in his eyes and a pained expression as he drew his hands closer to each other, slowly increasing the pressure on Viola. The demon began to have a hard time breathing, before being unable to breathe entirely, slowly suffocating as he looked into Blue's eyes. That look, that gaze, it was the same as his father's, the look of a monster. Hey, Blue, why don't you just finish him off? Come on, we need to help Goku. Krillin could sense his best friend struggling against the king. No, this monster is the reason Roshi, Tien, Chaozu, and Nam are all gone. We can't even revive them with Shenron either. He deserves to feel every second of pain they did. Blue begins squeezing down even harder on Viola, crushing his ribs while red energy begins to surround the soldier. Blue's eyes and aura slowly turn a reddish orange, while his hair begins to darken, almost as if it were changing to the color of his aura. Krillin, now terrified of his new ally, starts to back away. He sighs and leaves this to the general, before running off to catch up with Goku. Blue is feeling nothing but rage in his heart for the demons, wanting nothing more than to see them suffer, a feeling he's had before. Ever since his encounter with darkness, the general had been thinking about what his life was like prior to the Red Ribbon Army. But all his memories ever revealed was that his life was worth forgetting. Before those experimental treatments, Blue was a nobody, having parents that didn't even want him. That's why they let Red Pharmaceuticals buy him. And since he had blonde hair and blue eyes, all the kids made fun of him, thinking he was a delinquent and too weak to be of any use. Well, just like the kids who constantly bullied him, the aides who just stood by and allowed it, Blue would get rid of this demon as well. He began to put the final push on Viola, just about to turn him into paste when a wave of fire flowed over him, breaking his concentration and allowing Viola to escape. Blue created some distance between the two, watching Symbol pick his brother up, as if these demons could possibly care for one another. He was just about to snap Symbol's neck when Goku was thrust out of the castle, clearly injured. The Saiyan had his knee blown out, and it looked as if he couldn't use his other leg either. Blue went to use his telekinesis on King Piccolo, but when the demon exited, he had Krillin held up as a meat shield.
That was a nice attempt, humans. But ultimately, all you've done is gather the only warriors who pose a threat in one area.
King Piccolo fired a finger beam into Goku's shoulder, causing the Saiyan to scream out in pain. Blue used his telekinesis to shove the king back while simultaneously grabbing Krillin and Goku, pulling them back towards him. This, however, allowed Drum to strike from the shadows, hitting him with a percussive demon wave that didn't deal too much damage but did give the general vertigo. At first, he thought it was just a symptom of using so much of his psychic power, but King Piccolo explained that he created Drum specifically to deal with tricky fighters. He gave his latest spawn a special ability, something that would surprise any normal fighter: the use of sound-based attacks. Blue tried to take up a defensive stance, but his body was sluggish and the world seemed to be spinning. He felt nauseous, but did his best to keep it in, while Drum and Piccolo laughed at his feeble attempt. Finally, the king ordered his sons to finish the Z-Fighters off, but Goku had something up his sleeve. Since nobody was paying any attention to him, the kid used his final arm to launch a Kamehameha that would propel him straight through the king. This does mortally wound Piccolo, but Drum is still alive and aims to finish off Goku for such a dirty trick. Blue tries to use his telekinesis, but with his vertigo, it's impossible to stop the demon, only for a giant blast to strike Drum, carving out a pretty massive chunk from his back. The fighters all look over to see Violo, panting and holding a hand out towards his brother.
Consider this repayment for inadvertently saving me the trouble of doing this myself. But next time, it won't go your way.
Violo picks himself up, walking over towards his younger brother, who curses him for his betrayal. Drum, however, isn't able to get another word out before his head is crushed. The demon then orders Symbol to retrieve tambourine and piano, though the dragon is far too shocked to move.
I said retrieve them now, unless you'd wish to end up like our dear brother.
That got Symbol to act, flying off to grab Tambourine, who stalemated with Yamcha, both being pretty injured. Viola looked over towards the Z-Fighters, then towards King Piccolo, who was quickly fading.
I'll take over the world my way, and form a world where my kin are more than just pawns in someone else's game. The humans get to live another day, but this peace will not last long.
Viola then flies off, leaving Goku, Blue, and the others to ponder what just happened. The general wanted to chase the remaining demons down, but when taking a step forward, his body simply gave out, and he fell onto his knees. Krillin was the only one capable of moving at the moment, and so was tasked with taking his comrades back to Korin Tower. There, the cat reveals he has 3 Senzu left, offering 2 to the group. Yamcha figures he had 1 earlier, so he can heal from his injuries like normal, meaning Blue and Goku are the ones to heal up. The group lament that they can't revive their friends, but Korin reveals who Kami is, and that apparently both Goku and Blue have been summoned up there. Now, the cat doesn't bother explaining who Kami is, or, that he's a giant old slug, but he does pull Blue aside and mention that he'd be real surprised when spotting the geezer. Now, the next part of the arc goes about how you expect. The duo travel up to the lookout, meet Popo, fail to beat him, and end up meeting Kami. Goku still tries to attack the slug, but Blue stops him, realizing this is what Korin meant. The Namekian explains his origins and that he will, indeed, reincarnate Shenron, but only if these two train under him in order to defeat King Piccolo's son. At first, they believe Kami was referencing Violo, and both say they could beat him as is, but the old man reveals there is another, one with far more potential than even his father. And worse yet, he's being brought up by Violo himself, something that's sure to create a monster. Well, Goku isn't one to turn down a good training session and fight, so he accepts. Blue is a lot less enthusiastic about this, but ultimately agrees as well, since he'd like Earth to stay in one piece. Shenron has arrived, and soon every one of King Piccolo's victims are brought back. Meanwhile, General Blue is trained atop the lookout, though Kami seems to be giving him the cold shoulder, and the soldier can only guess why. Ever since he got his memories back, Blue feels as if he really isn't such a good guy, like he can sense the evil within himself. he nearly crushed Violo, and what he did back then? Well, let's just say the demon got off easy. Kami too seemed to sense the evil within this young prodigy, but continued taking a chance on him for some reason. The training was intense, and as Goku continued to soar, Blue felt himself falling behind and even growing a little jealous of his friend. Now, while Goku was left alone for doing so well, Blue was punished for every failure, forced into doing an extra hour training every day. Over time, this wore the general down, his sore muscles making it difficult to even bend his arms or sit down to use a toilet. Eventually, Blue had enough and confronted Kami on the matter. "Hey, old man, I know I may not be as talented as Goku, but that doesn't mean you have to keep on shoving it in my face. What's your problem with me?" Kami simply looked down and sighed.
It's quite the contrary. Really, it is. You remind me of what I used to be before splitting into Kami and Piccolo. There's a darkness within you, but like Goku, a strong light shines as well.
Blue scoffed, though he couldn't exactly argue with someone who basically just praised him. "So, what? Do you think I should split myself? Like you did?"
No, of course not. Doing that was a mistake on my part. Something an irrational young man did before thinking it through. I wish to do with you what my predecessor couldn't. I wish to help you become strong, as well as control that darkness, for I feel both are needed to defeat the mistake I made so long ago.
Kami begins walking off towards the edge of the lookout. There, he and Blue watches Violo and Piccolo Jr. spar, having an intense bout of fisticuffs while tambourine, cymbal, and piano cheer for the kid to win. Unfortunately, Violo wins, landing a decisive strike on Piccolo and sending him crashing into a tree. Blue expected the demons to cheer, or maybe even boo since the kid lost. However, tambourine and piano quickly run over to comfort the boy, telling him that he'd do better next time, the former even offering to teach him the demon blade technique. It would seem that just as there was evil within Blue, there was also good within even the most evil creatures. But that's where we'll be leaving things off for right now. If you guys enjoyed this part, then perhaps you'd enjoy a story where Raditz has to confront his own evil nature. But even if you don't, thanks for getting to this part of the video. You guys have a good day or night wherever you are. That's it for now. Bye-bye.